Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have a review of another Mattel Jurassic World Dominion set. We have the Owen Escape Pack, and you can see that we have some Atrociraptors, as well as Owen on his motorcycle, and a young Juvenile Carnotaurus included in here, but it's a little hard to really see it due to the light kind of glaring off of the plastic there. So let's go ahead and get a look at the back of the box. We'll try to just kind of get through the box here really quickly so we can get this opened. But you can again see here on the back, it kind of shows off the figures that are included again with Owen over here. And then we also have two different Atrociraptors. I'm not positive which ones those ones there are as far as the names. I'm actually not familiar with the names of the Atrociraptors at all yet. I've been trying not to ruin too much for the Dominion film before seeing it, so kind of holding off on learning too much before we get there, so I don't quite know the names of all of the Atrociraptors yet. I do know Ghost, but I'm not positive of the others. And you can see over here on the side, again, we have a look at the scan codes for the three dinosaurs. So let's go ahead, pop the box open, and check these out. So we've got Owen on his motorcycle, who I would imagine probably is not going to stand currently. We also have the helmet, we have the knife, we then have ourselves our Atrociraptors. And both are actually really nice. This one specifically, when I had seen some images of it, I didn't think I was going to like it too much because I didn't really enjoy the kind of crouching pose, but here in hand it's way nicer than I expected. And then, in my opinion, the star of the show, who just fell over because his feet were not in the right spot, we have got ourselves the Carnotaurus. And again, you get a lot with this set, you really do, so definitely a set that is worth the money, and I really like the Carnotaurus. The only thing I think that could have improved that Carnotaurus would have been some articulation right there behind the head to kind of change the positioning of the head. Just that little extra bit of articulation would have just done that figure a lot of justice, but as a whole, I think all of these look great, I really do. The Owen is definitely the same Owen we've had a few times now. We had it with the Extreme Damage set, and we had it in the Velociraptor beta set, except one of those two sets, I think it was the Extreme Damage one, had a different color shirt, whereas we are now back to the blue shirt. But the motorcycle as well as the dinosaurs here included in this set are definitely new, so let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at all of these right now. So starting with Owen, we take him off of his motorcycle. You can definitely see, if my camera would focus on him anyway, for some reason it is absolutely not going to do that. There we go. You can see it is definitely the same Owen that we've had. Again, this is the third time now we've had this exact Owen sculpt. The thing that always gives it away right away for me is the fact that we always have this area for the knife on the back, and of course the kind of button-down shirt. So the Owen is definitely the same figure. We have reviewed him. This would be the third time now, so we're not going to take a look at him. But we do have the motorcycle, and although there's really not too much to it, it's pretty nice. A little bit kind of cheap feeling, but for the most part, you know, the sculpt is very nicely done. You can see everything here detail-wise is present on the motorcycle, definitely giving it a pretty highly detailed appearance. The overall feel of it feels a little bit cheap, I think, but still not bad, you know. The overall motorcycle definitely looks nice. I would say it looks like it does in the film, but since I haven't really seen the film yet, and I haven't paid too much attention to the motorcycle that Owen is riding in the trailer, I'm not positive how similar it looks to the one in the film, but I guess we'll find that out very soon when the film actually hits theaters and we all have a chance to go see it. But the motorcycle definitely looks fun, and then of course we've got ourselves a helmet for Owen as well as his knife. You know, we have had the knife before, but the helmet we definitely have not had, at least as far as the Dominion figures go. And then we've got ourselves the Atrociraptors. The first Atrociraptor here is a very, very nice looking one, and I'm really loving the overall design for the Atrociraptors from Jurassic World Dominion. I think they look great, and I'm actually quite a big fan of this one. I like the coloration, and the paintwork looks really nice on this, aside from the kind of like, you know, random colored arms. It almost looks like he has like sleeves on or something, because the transition from that color to this color isn't really that great. But as far as the head sculpt goes, you can see the head sculpt is very nicely done. You have some beautiful scale detail here. You also have kind of like a squinty eye a little bit, almost making it look like it's like zoning in and about to take down, you know, its prey, which in this case would be Owen. You can see that we have some nice browns there around the eye that come up into the palette and kind of stripe down. They all have a glossy look to it as far as those browns in the face go, so it does help for the face area of the figure to stand out a bit. You can see the same for this side. Really nice, very precise paintwork. The eye paint is beautifully applied. We have a yellow and a black pupil, so that is definitely a huge plus because, we often get bad eye paint on Mattel figures, but this time it seems like, or at least lately in general, when it comes to the Dominion line, it really feels like they have upped their game as far as the eye paint goes. The inside of the mouth sports some very nice realistic tones of color, and we also have a nice gloss coat in there. It actually looks like the back there is more of a purple, but the tongue is kind of a pink, so we almost have some alternate tones of color on the inside of the mouth of this one. I think it's a little hard to tell, but it definitely looks that way. You can see the teeth are all sculpted very nicely. Also very nicely painted, no sloppiness there. Very nice articulated jaw for the Atrociraptor as well. Leading back into the neck, you can see some creasing there right behind the head, as well as some fantastic scale detail moving down the course of the neck. You've got some more of that brown kind of splotching there in the neck region leading back into the stomach. If we pull the leg back, you can see again that we have more of that out here into the stomach region. And we also have a very strong speckling for this figure pretty much everywhere, which is also a big plus if you ask me, because it adds some extra color to the figure. You can see that we lead down here into the stomach. We have a light coloration for the underside, kind of like a nice off-white. So we do have a little extra color down here, but it would have been nicer to see that, of course, run the entire course of the underside of the figure. We have a very nice arm sculpt here with some nice muscle definition. Really outstretched arm right here. You can see the hands, how the hand is kind of touching, I don't know what, but it's down on the ground grabbing a hold of something. You can even see like a curve in the hand, so it clearly has its hand on something. And you can see the hand itself has a very nice sculpt, but the coloration being so bright almost like drowns out the detail here on camera. You can definitely see that of course my camera's not going to focus, the nails do not have nail paint, unfortunately, but they do look pretty good regardless as far as the sculpt goes, just not really so much as far as the paint goes. Beautiful scale detail here in the stomach region as well, and you can see kind of like some skin wrinkles and stuff down here. Once we move the leg back up to where it should be, you can see some fantastic musculature here in the thigh as well as the calf moving down the course of the leg. Very nice kneecap there in the front, and you can see a bit of an extraordinarily large foot sculpt as per usual when it comes to our figure, but you have some nice scoots down the toes. You also again have the claws sculpted out but given no nail paint at all, just some more of those speckles are pretty much everywhere on this figure. And then as you lead up here into the tail, you can kind of see like some skin, detail right there leading out into the tail. The tail has a nice curve to it, and I love that the tail comes up here and transitions to a nice light coloration, and then you have more of that splotchy brown, because it really does make the entire figure look like it's painted rather than, many Mattel figures where we get paint on the first half, nothing on the second half, so it looks unpainted on the back half. That is not the case on this Atrociraptor. You can see the same deal as far as the sculpting and detailing aspect over here, because the raptor is kind of like facing straight forward. You don't really see too much of a difference as far as the positioning of the body goes. You can make out the spinal column up here on the top of the figure, though, that's for sure. You can see a little bit more of the stomach region over here without actually having to move the leg, because the leg is really stretched back here as it's obviously lunging forward. Nice curve in the arm, so the arm sculpt is definitely in a different position over here compared to what we saw on the initial side. You've got a nice hand sculpt yet again. Again, the muscle definition is nicely shown in the sculpt. You have some more really nice paint work. The transition down into that lighter coloration is really smooth. More speckles through the course of the figure, very, reptilian-like scaling on the Atrociraptor, and you have some more nice muscle definition on this leg. You can see the kneecap, and then a nice foot sculpt yet again over here with the very nicely sculpted nails. You can see a little bit of a gloss coat for the nails, so even though they don't have actual nail paint, they do have a little bit of a glossy look at least. And then you'll lead back up into the tail. So I really like this Atrociraptor. That is definitely a way nicer one than I was expecting it to be. And then we've got our second Atrociraptor, and the head looks pretty much just like the last one did, I would say. Very similar at the very least, so the detailing probably looks the same. You have some more really nice coloration on this Atrociraptor. You have a nice orangish tone for the majority of the body, but you have this kind of like nice light off-white that kind of stripes through, and just like with the other one, it has a little bit of a glossy look to the off-white area here leading through the face, which helps again to make the face stand out quite a bit. You can see the eye is painted yet again with a yellow given a black pupil. Same deal over here, yep, and very nicely placed eye, so that is definitely a big time plus. We've got an articulated jaw yet again, and similar to the other one, it almost looks like we have a darker tone of color there in the back of the throat, and then a lighter tone for the tongue, so displaying a little bit of color variation in here, and you can also see the teeth are pretty nicely sculpted. Not great, but they look okay. And then you can also see the paintwork as well. Looks pretty nice with a nice kind of an off-white bordering on a yellow, so a fairly realistic tone of color for the Atrociraptor. Moving back into the neck, you can start to see some creasing running down the course of the neck the entire way down, and again, some really nice color variation. This is probably my favorite out of all of the Atrociraptors that I've seen so far as the coloration goes, because it just has absolutely gorgeous paintwork through the entire figure, all the way out onto the tail. The only thing I really needed was nail paint, but, you know, that's just a given for any Mattel figure. But you can see again some more fantastic scale detail down here in the side of the dinosaur leading into the stomach. Kind of a little bit of girth in the stomach, so it looks pretty well fed. The arms don't look like they're in any sort of a, absolutely different position over here than they are on the other side, so the arms look good though. I really like the curve in the hands, kind of holding the hands into the body in a pretty nice natural way. Nice muscle definition displayed as well. The hand sculpts look fantastic, no nail paint, but they look really good. And then again, you can see how we have that really nice dark orange, but we have kind of like those stripes and everything of that off-white running through. We also have coloration on the underside, and because of the light coloration of the tail, it really does look like it kind of runs the entire course of the underside of the figure, which, boy, I can't even begin to express how much of a breath of fresh air that is. But then as we move back up here, you can see the DNA scan code, which the previous Atrociraptor as well had, which I did not show. I'll have to bring that back up here in a moment. But you can see leading down the thigh, again, nice muscle definition. We have more of those stripes leading through the leg. Absolutely beautiful looking leg sculpt as we lead down, similar to the previous one that we had just seen. Really nice, very vibrant detail through the course of the figure. Again, no nail paint, but we do sort of have like a glossy look to the nails. And then we lead back up here into the tail, and you can see again the fantastic scale detail leading out into the tail. I will say the coloration of the tail itself is a slightly different tone of color than what we see here on the off-white of the body, so that is something to take note of. But I will say at the same time, it looks beautiful, and you can really see again how nice it looks with this kind of orangish tone there, spotting out onto the tail pretty far. Definitely a really nice, appealing paint application and paint scheme for this Atrociraptor. One of the best painted Mattel figures, I think, from the Jurassic World Dominion line so far. This side, we're really not going to see too much difference, because this one, unlike the previous Atrociraptor, isn't in any kind of like a crazy dramatic pose. So the only real big difference I can really take note of is the fact that the leg is trailing, whereas the leg is leading on the other side. But we do have a nice curve to the tail up here on the top. You can take note to that. This is an incredibly nice looking Atrociraptor. Really a big fan of both of these. And then the DNA scan code you've got right there for this Atrociraptor, and then you have, of course, the Jurassic logo here on the back. And then for the other one, you've got the Jurassic logo on one side. If my camera would again focus on it, does not seem to like this one. And then the scan code on the previous side there, if you'd like to add it to your collection. And of course, the scan codes are a bit of an eyesore. I really would have liked to have seen these figures released without the scan codes, but it is what it is at this point. I think we just have to live with it. And then we've got ourselves the Carnotaurus, and one thing about this Carnotaurus that straight away is really cool is the fact that we have a chipped horn on the Carnotaurus, like we see in Jurassic World Dominion. And I think the Carnotaurus in Dominion, though, that we see the chipped horn on is an adult, whereas this one is obviously a juvenile. Now, I could be entirely wrong, who knows? I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but that's something that I was a little confused on. Maybe you guys might have some answers for me. I have no idea. Again, I've been kind of trying to avoid some major spoilers, but I have at least taken notice to the fact that the one Carnotaurus in Dominion does have a chipped horn. But you can see that we have some really nice sculpt and detail, as you always find on a Mattel Carnotaurus. They are always fantastic when it comes to a detailing aspect, and I love the fact that this one has just a straight-up articulated jaw, and in fact, the articulation all through the course of the figure is just that. It's just articulation. There's no action feature or anything like that. I think this might be the first time we've had a Carnotaurus like this where we didn't have an action feature and we just had the ability to articulate the figure, which is, well, I guess except for the super colossal version, but which I think might be my favorite aspect about this figure, and definitely really high up on my list of favorite Carnotaurus from the Mattel line. You can see we have a green eye, but we don't have a black pupil. The pupil is actually the gray coloration, or like the grayish green color of the Carnotaurus itself, but the color of that is dark enough that it doesn't look off-putting. It looks pretty nice. The scale detail and everything here through the face looks fantastic. You've got the nostrils sculpted out right there. You can pick up on the nice detailing, or you can try to, on the lower jaw. Yet again, the light is kind of drowning it out because we're looking at a pretty bright light gray down there. You can see that the inside of the mouth sports a very nice coloration in there, a very nice textured tongue as well. Gorgeous gloss coat on top of everything, and then you have the very nicely painted and sculpted teeth, again painted with kind of like a light yellow, or like it's definitely like a light yellow, which I really like that they don't just give their figures like a bright white or anything. Definitely adds a nice dose of realism to the figures as a whole, and I feel like they absolutely nailed the sculpt of the Carnotaurus head when it comes to what a Jurassic World version looks like. It is just picture perfect. Leading back here into the neck, you continue to see some more really nice detailing here, some nice bulkiness to the neck of the Carnotaurus as you lead down closer to the body. You have a line of ridges running along the spinal column, again, as well as like osteoderms like you usually see on Carnotaurus. You see a nice very dark orange picking up there in the top of the head, and then it just kind of splotches and designs all over the place as you run down the course of the figure. Leading down here into the body, you can see that very nice, very short arm sculpt like you would like to see on the Carnotaurus. Very nicely sculpted out hands, and we also have some nice detailing here in the stomach region. You can see lots of skin wrinkles and skin folds the further down into the lower part of the stomach you get. We do unfortunately not have coloration on the underside except for the lower jaw. We have that light gray that leads down into the throat but quickly disappears, and then we have nothing for the underside aside from some really nice sculpt work, which is a downside, especially when you saw how nice the coloration was on the previous Atrociraptors, but I still think the color looks very nice on this Carnotaurus. As you lead out the length of the figure, again, you can see how highly detailed it is. Whenever you get a Mattel figure, you are going to get an absolutely incredible sculpt, and that is definitely the case for this Carnotaurus. You can see some nice scale detail leading down into the leg. Again, the muscle definition is nicely displayed. As you move down the leg, you can kind of see like some skin wrinkling there in the knee, down into the foot sculpt, and then leading up here toward the tail, you can see some more nice wrinkling and everything right there, some nice creasing in the skin. Unfortunately, the orange just disappears completely as we reach the tail. You do have a beautiful curve in the tail in a downward position. It really would have looked, though, a lot nicer had that orange there run all the way out onto the tail. I feel like the figure as a whole would have been fantastic with that extra coloration. And just like with the last Atrociraptor we had taken a look at, you don't really see very much difference on this side compared to what we had seen on the initial side. You can see the arms are pretty much in the same position. The head's fairly straightforward, so there's no big difference in the detail of the neck. And then as you lead down here, you're going to really pick up on the only difference being the leg sculpt, as this leg is leading, the opposing leg is trailing, and then leading up into the tail. You can see the skin stretching nicely off of the tail with this leg pulling forward so far, really nicely stretching that skin as you lead out the length of the tail, again with that really nice curve. So the Carnotaurus is beautiful as far as the sculpt goes. Let me get this app code out here for you guys to see. We have the Jurassic World logo yet again, and then the code over here on the opposing side if you'd like to add it to your collection. As far as all the dinosaurs go in this set, the DNA code definitely is a bit of an eyesore on the top here. It's not like some of the others where they've been able to hide it in a little bit of a nicer way. But the Carnotaurus, as far as the sculpt goes, and a lot of the paint, is definitely a beautiful version of a Jurassic Carnotaurus. As far as articulation goes on all of the dinosaurs included, again with the Carnotaurus you have the jaw articulation. You also have articulation in the neck, which you can move up, down, and then kind of swivel around, so you can kind of get some different positioning for your Carnotaurus. It's pretty nice articulation, but some articulation right here would have really been fantastic for this figure. We do have the articulation in the arms, forward and back, and out away from the body. We also have the articulation in the legs, which is really smooth. Same deal for both legs, and then a swivel tail. So not too much, but pretty much what you would expect. I would say your standard articulation. Man, I really love the sculpt of that Carnotaurus. And then you've also got the articulation in the Atrociraptors. Again, the articulated jaw. Same deal as far as the neck. Pretty much the exact same articulation as the Carnotaurus. Again, very nice articulation there. Articulation in the arms, but unlike the Carnotaurus, we can't move them out away from the body. We only get forward and back. Same deal for the leg right there. Very nice, very smooth articulation, and then the swivel tail. And then I would imagine this Atrociraptor will be exactly the same. Again, the jaw articulation, the neck articulation, the arm articulation, same deal. Can't move it out away from the body, just forward and back. And then the legs, both legs, of course, and a swivel tail. So yeah, absolutely the exact same articulation as the previous Atrociraptor. And then Owen, we have again reviewed him numerous times, but as far as his articulation goes, you have articulation in the head. You also have the shoulder, which can go all over the place, totally swivel around if you'd like. You have the elbow, which can pretty much do the same thing. You can go forward and back and then also swivel the elbow. And then you have the articulation in the midsection, also can swivel. You've got the articulation in the hip and the knee, which can also swivel. So lots of articulation for Owen as well. And then as far as the mobility of the motorcycle goes, you can see that it definitely moves very nicely. It's really smooth as far as the playability feature of it goes. So when it comes to buying this for a child, they're definitely going to love this set because you've got pretty much everything you could ask for when it comes to a Jurassic World set. A nice human character, a vehicle for him to ride, as well as some beautiful dinosaur figures. But for a size on all of these, the Owen we know is in the 3 3/4 inch range because he's, again, been on the channel a few times now at this point, and plus that's just the general size of the Mattel humans in the main line. For the motorcycle, you are looking at about 4 1/4 inches, or maybe a little under 4 1/4 inches, actually about 10.5 centimeters for length. For a height, just shy of 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters. For this crouching Atrociraptor, which now I'm kind of tangling them up. Oh boy, knocking that one over. For the crouching Atrociraptor, you are looking at about the 7.5 inch or 19 centimeter range. The highest point definitely is the tail. You're looking at a little over, just barely over 2.5 inches or around 6.5 centimeters. For the standing Atrociraptor, if I can get him to stand, because he keeps wanting to fall over. I don't think I have his feet in a very good spot. But for a length, you are looking at about 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters. And yet again, he falls over. And then for a height, if I have the head in like the position you would expect it to be in, they're about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. And then the Carnotaurus, I've knocked everything over there now off to the side. But for a length on the Carnotaurus, about 10 inches or around 25.5 centimeters. And then for a height, the highest point is definitely the horn on the Carnotaurus. You're looking at about 4.5 inches or 11.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, I actually just took notice to the fact that we have a kickstand for the motorcycle. So the kickstand also articulates and now has the motorcycle standing. But we have Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon standing in here to give us an idea of the size of all of these figures. And I would say the Atrociraptors are pretty much right there in the same size range as all of the previous Mattel Velociraptors. The Carnotaurus, however, is an interesting one because that's the only one that I feel like size-wise most people probably wouldn't be too sure on. And you can see that although it's a really nice size and the largest dinosaur in this set, it's not all that large as a whole, especially in comparison to the previous release of pretty much any Carnotaurus that we've had from Mattel. And then for another comparison, we have the Extreme Damage Velociraptor here. So if you have any of the Mattel Velociraptors, at this point, you'll definitely have an idea of the size of the Atrociraptors. And then as far as the size goes with a previously released Carnotaurus, prior this would have been one of the smallest Carnotaurus figures outside of the minis. This is the original release of the Carnotaurus from Mattel that I have repainted, so you can obviously tell it's not the original paint, but you can definitely see how much smaller this newest Carnotaurus is in comparison to the Carnotaurus that we had prior. Again, the previously smallest version outside of the minis would have been this, or, a Snap Squad or something like that, but you can really see that the size difference is quite drastic, obviously showing off, again, the fact that this is a juvenile Carnotaurus included in this set. So this Owen Escape Pack is definitely a really fun set, and quite possibly one of my favorite sets I think that we've had from the Mattel Jurassic World Dominion line, just because I love the Atrociraptor design and I love getting new Atrociraptor figures. So grabbing a set that has 2 different Atrociraptors, and specifically the orange one, which is like my favorite design of all of the Atrociraptors color scheme wise, and having both of these included is immediately awesome. And the coloration and sculpts of both Atrociraptors are absolutely beautiful. They really nicely replicate what we've seen so far of the Atrociraptors from Dominion, and the paintwork on both, I feel like it's probably some of the nicest paintwork we've had on Mattel figures lately. And they both, again, look incredible in both the sculpt and detail as well as the paintwork. The Owen is, again, your standard Owen. It's the Owen that we've had. This is the third time now up on the channel. Nothing special with him. I'm sure we'll have a plethora of Owens moving forward, as Mattel absolutely loves Owen. And you can see that this time, though, we at least have a helmet with our Owen, as well as a really cool motorcycle, which definitely adds a nice playability to the set, but also really allows you to create some cool dioramas if you choose to when it comes to the inclusion of the motorcycle. And the motorcycle is very nicely done as a whole. Kind of a little cheap feeling, but overall really nice. And the Carnotaurus is my favorite part of the set, and the Carnotaurus is gorgeous. The sculpt is fantastic. I absolutely adore everything that I see on the sculpt, and the paintwork as well is pretty nice. The only thing that's not that great is the fact that we don't have that orange running out onto the tail, and of course all of the dinosaurs in the set could have used painted nails, but aside from that, I feel like the paintwork of the Carnotaurus is actually really quite nice, and we also have kind of like a speckling through the entire course of the figure, which does add a little element of extra paint to it, making it look a little bit nicer, but definitely an awesome figure to have. I like the smaller size, and I love the fact that we can articulate it pretty much any way we want. So as a whole, this set is a must-have, if you ask me. If you are a fan of Jurassic World Dominion and want to grab a set with a lot of bang for your buck, this is definitely a good way to go, because there's a lot in here and all of it is awesome. So I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase this on Target.com, or of course you can head to Target in store and purchase it there. One way or another, I really recommend picking up this set, so make sure you do that, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.